Good evening, America, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you, as always, from Washington, D.C. and the WiredToFishCoffee.com studios. Wired to Fish Coffee is the official coffee of Just the News. And you know this. You can go right now to Wired2FishCoffee.com. Get a fantastic 10% discount on all of their great blends. I like the morning medium roast blend. Some people like the dark roast. You can't go wrong with either. You get 10% off if you use the promo code JustNews. All right, let's turn to some business here. For years, the scourge of anti-Semitism has affected our country, especially our colleges campus, with ugly protests, ugly words of hatred, and jaw-dropping episodes of anti-Semitism. We heard yesterday a significant amount of new information came in. Congresswoman Mariannette Miller-Meeks saying that she is going to create a commission to immediately remove that or to address that issue, something Congress hasn't done to this date. It's a very important development. We've got some other news, though. Elon Musk, he got on his X. Why not? He owns it. He can get on there whenever he wants. And he earlier today said he can't stand it anymore. He has to call the big, beautiful bill a, quote, disgusting abomination. Now, I don't think we need to read between the lines to understand what he's feeling about or what he's talking about. He wants more spending cuts like what DOGE tried to put in. But in fact, we'll see what happens when the Senate gets rolling. In a few minutes, we're going to talk to Senator Tommy Tuberville. He has a meeting tomorrow with the Republican caucus. He thinks a lot more spending cuts will be added in. Maybe Elon Musk was, a little strategic in waiting until today, the day before the Senate met, to get that process rolling and to put his own imprimatur on this. Right now, the House has cut about $1.8 trillion in spending. I think there's some that would like to get above $2 trillion. We'll see what happens. Now, a little while ago, the White House sent its first rescission bill. That's a bill that asked Congress to take back money that wasn't spent. $9.4 billion in the first request. More to come over the next few days. Some of the money being cut there, public broadcasting and foreign aid, two of DOJ's favorite targets. Now, moving on to the FBI. Today, the FBI told Just the News they have arrested more than 10,000 illegal migrants since President Trump took office on January 20th. That due to the FBI focusing more on gang and criminal elements among the illegal alien population. The process has been led by FBI Director Kash Patel. More than 5,000 agents have been deployed to this new initiative where the FBI gets involved in rounding up illegal immigrants, particularly those who are violent drug offenders, involved in human trafficking, and speeding. This effort has sped their capture and put them in line for deportation a lot quicker than they would have been. The total number is exactly 10,553, the FBI said. We'll have more on this tonight. It's actually quite remarkable, the statistics. 555 FBI employees are currently in Los Angeles working on immigration roundup right now. Really significant. About a quarter of the FBI in some form or another fashion now working on immigration week in and week out. We're going to give you some specific raids that occurred. One of them in Barack Obama's favorite spot. Yep, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket. You got it. All right, let's bring in my amazing co-host Amanda Head for more on this. Amanda? A busy day today and a great day.
Great day.
I saw you shouted out by Carolyn Levitt at the top of the press conference today.
I ended up in the White House's hot seat. That would be the new media seat today.
So, it is hot.
Yeah, it is hot. So I got to ask Press Secretary Carolyn Levitt a couple of questions, the first of which having to do with the rise in anti-Semitic attacks in America over the last few weeks and months that John and I highlighted on this very show last night. So take a look. There is a disturbing trend of anti-Semitism turning into terrorism. Of course, the Boulder, Colorado instance that you just mentioned, the two Israeli embassy staffers who were murdered, Pennsylvania governor's mansion with the Jewish governor inside getting set on fire. Does the president consider this domestic terrorism? And as such, are there official alerts to law enforcement, BOLOs, task forces, things like that?
The president has made it very clear, as he said in his statement yesterday, that yes, these anti-Semitic acts of violence are do qualify as terrorism, and he does not want to see terrorism or violence of any form taking place in the United States of America. And as for specifically anti-Semitic terrorism and anti-Semitic acts of violence and those that are targeting Jewish Americans, this administration has done more to combat that violence than any administration in history.
And despite the media being a little bit wishy-washy on whether to call these attacks acts of terror, you have just seen the White House take a very clear stance on the issue, and the president believes that they are terror attacks. And Carolyn finished up her answer with a message to Jewish Americans explaining that the president absolutely has their backs. Now, I also got the chance to ask Carolyn about the childhood vaccine schedule. Here's what she had to say. Back in February, Secretary Kennedy created a commission to re-examine the childhood vaccine schedule. But there are still states outstanding like California, Connecticut, Maine that are not allowing any religious exemptions for kids not only to go to school but to participate in sports and extracurricular activities. Would the president want to see religious exemptions allowed across all 50 states? And how do you enforce that, especially with states like California that are already defying the president on the men and women's sports issue?
Generally speaking, I know the president supports religious exemptions for families when it comes to vaccinations. As for the instances in those specific states, I'll have the administration and the White House look into it and see what executive action, if any, we can take on that front.
So I have a feeling President Trump is going to want to keep an eye on that, and I will report back with anything the White House tells me regarding it.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah,
It was really great to
time.
see you in the hot seat today. Great questions. I think everybody thought they were great questions. And also a nice shout out for Justin News at the top as they
Absolutely.
introduced our publication and all we do. It was a special day. It's so great to have you here in Washington.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. All right, while Amanda was doing all of that fun stuff, I had a great chance to sit down for a little bit and speak with a senator from her home state of Alabama. That's right, Tommy Tuberville. Take a watch of what we had to talk about. All right, joining us now, a man who's been on a mission to protect women's sports. He's now on a mission to become Alabama's next governor, Senator Tommy Tuberville. Senator, great to have you on, sir.
Thanks, John. Thanks for being on.
The last time we were together, this idea of you running for governor was still in a formative stage. Now it's the real deal. What was the impetus? What made you decide to leave Washington, go back home, and try to go run that great state?
Well, it was a decision, John, whether I could help the people of Alabama more from a Senate seat, or can I do it being the CEO, the governor of the state? And after looking at all of it, talking with President Trump, evaluating what he's going to do, more power back to the states, more money back to the states, I decided to go back and take advantage of that, of what he's going to do in the next couple of years. So as President Trump said, hey, you'll be with me for 18 more months, and then go back and start with everything I'm doing back in Alabama, giving back some power. And I think it'll be a great time and a great opportunity for you. Yeah, I mean, the Trump agenda really is designed to return power to the states after maybe 30 or 40 years of building up the central government in Washington. So you probably are going to see beyond the big, beautiful bill, more block grants, more ceding authority back to states in the next 6 months or a year when you're in the Senate, correct? That's right. There's a lot of things in this big, beautiful bill that's going to give a lot more power back. Of course, we're concerned, obviously, with some things that the federal government's going to pull back money from, such as possibly Medicaid, right. A balance, more of a balance from state to federal. But in the long run, most things going back to the state is going to be right on target for what President Trump promised in the campaign. Yeah, so very important to see those things fall in them. One of those, and I know you've been a big advocate, saving taxes on overtime for workers who put in those extra hours to make ends meet. How important is that, and does it look good like that will get through the Senate? Oh, I don't think there'll be any doubt. That's very, very popular up here, very popular when President Trump ran for election. Basically it's putting more money back into the hands, just like the tax cuts do. With the dropping of the rate or keeping the rate the same, but giving more money back to the hardworking people of the country that can go out and spend money, that will create more taxes in the long run. So just growth, John. We got to grow the country. We got to put more money out there that people are actually working to make, other than the entitlement money that's coming out from the federal government, to give us a chance to pay down this debt. Yeah, I know, and you're serious about that. Give me a sense of the state of the bill in the Senate. Do you think it will survive the Senate and as a single bill and get the president's agenda done by July 4? I think it will, but you're having a lot of detractors come out now. Today we saw where Elon Musk comes out and says, I'm really not for this. It's way too much spending. There is a lot of spending. You got to remember, John, there's 2,600 agencies up here in the federal government, 2,600, and it has grown over the years. And of course, we're worried about a lot of them, but there's a lot of these places that we could just sit down and go line by line, as a lot of the senators up here said, and so we could cut more of this. But for some reason, there's been no dialogue with that. But at the end of the day, now we've got about a month to sit down, look at it, what is best for the American people. How are we going to get this country growing again? How are we going to get more money in the pockets of the American citizens, give them an opportunity to live a better life? There will be some reform in this. I promise you that whatever the House sent here is not going to pass muster when it comes to the Senate. There's going to be a lot of things change. And when it changes, we'll try to change it for the best. Now, at the end of the day, we've got to do it to where we can get it passed back in the House. And that's going to be a big concern.
I know you're keeping an eye on both of those fields so that you thread that needle. Are spending cuts one of the places where you think the Senate may make some improvements?
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, I don't think we could get 51 senators today that would say, we would vote this bill the way it is. There's way too much spending and grow the country. That's what President Trump ran his campaign on. We've got to cut spending. He knows that. And, you got to find the right places. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, that's off limits. We all know that. But there's other places like SNAP cards. We plan on cutting that back, obviously, to give a little bit of that money back to the farmers and raise reference prices. That's a big concern for me because my farmers back in Alabama are really, really struggling and all over the country. So there's some places we can cut. We got to do it the right way. We got to sit down and talk about it. We'll probably meet 4 or 5 hours tomorrow as a Senate caucus talking about the things that we may be able to look at and find where we can make changes. There's a lot of good things in there, but there's a lot of things too that I think we could do a better job on.
I think our founding fathers always intended for things to come from the House and Senate and get polished a little more before it became law. So it's really following the great constitutional path that our founding fathers had. Is there a favorite thing in the bill that you think will get changed that will be a big winner when it's all done?
Well, there's so many of them, John. What you have to look at, you have to look at the agencies that are not as important as others. Okay, there's everything up here that's important, but we have to look at the blocking and tackling as we did in when I was coaching. You got to look at the things that really, really count. The things on the outside, the peripheral vision of a lot of these things, these agencies, we're spending money to have federal jobs. And that's pretty much it. We have got to make sure we teach the block and tackling when it comes to this bill, keep the things that are really going to keep our country strong and make it stronger, but look at the peripheral things with the agencies that we really don't need, whether it's reform or whether it's cuts.
Yeah, really, really important. Another thing that you have been a champion your whole life, going back to your earliest days of coaching, protecting and advancing women's sports, which is such an extraordinary success story over the last half century. Democrats tried to destroy that success story with some changes to Title IX. You're not going to finish or stop your Senate tenure until you get this rectified. Put us on a course. Tell us where we are in that process of getting men out of women's sports.
Well, John, it baffles me why these woke governors and school administrators in states like Maine and California, they refuse to stand up for women. It makes no sense. Nearly 80% of Americans agree that men competing in women's sports is wrong. I mean, you can't get any more clear than that. But every single Democrat has voted against my bill 3 times to protect women's men and women's sports. They voted against me to make sure that men had that opportunity, and that's dead wrong. So, all eyes are going to be on California as we prepare for the 2028 Olympics. And where do we train our Olympic athletes? It is in colleges. We don't have Olympic training. That's right. And so what's going to happen is you're going to destroy a lot of women's sports and a lot of Olympic sports because of what these woke governors and administrators are doing. So I've got a bill out there that's called the Protection of Women in Olympic and Amateur Sports Act, and hopefully we can come to some common sense. As you know, John, we've got the Olympics here in a few years in LA. We're going to have a lot of egg on our face if we don't straighten up and start understanding the lay of the land and let women compete against women and men versus men. Other countries coming in here, if they look at us, what we're doing, they're going to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, and one of those, the host state would actually be out of alignment with the American public's wishes and the president's executive order, California. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Do you think your law can be put into the big, beautiful bill, or does it have to pass out separately?
It's got to be separate. It has nothing to do with money, basically.
Right.
When you put something in a reconciliation bill, it's got to be mandatory spending. And mandatory spending has really nothing to do with this bill. So we'll throw it out there again, probably in the year coming up. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's certainly a winner with the American public, so no reason why it shouldn't get through the Senate and House eventually. Sir, it's such a great honor to have you on the show. Congratulations on the big announcement in Alabama. I know your state is very excited to have you on the ballot.
Thank you, John.
What a great conversation. A strong prediction there. Tomorrow is a very big day in the Senate. The caucus meets for the Republicans. They're going to start talking about spending cuts. What did you hear? They're going to get rid of whole agencies. Some of these small agencies, alphabet soup. That's Tommy Tupperville's prediction. We'll see if that comes true. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, some breaking news out of Judicial Watch. They just got some news in their fight for election integrity. We're going to have their great president, Tom Fitton, on next to explain. Hey folks, if you're a homeowner like me, you need to listen to this. In today's AI and cyber world, scammers are stealing home titles and your equity is their target. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee with your county, and boom, just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. And that's when the problems begin, because they start taking out loans using your equity and even sell your property. And you're not even going to find out it's happened until you get a collection or foreclosure notice months later. That's a nightmare, right? So when's the last time you checked on your home title? Well, if you're like me, the answer is never, right? You need to do something about that right now. That's why I've partnered with Home Title Lock, so you can find out today if you're already a victim. Use my promo code JTN at HometitleLock.com, and you'll get a free title history report and a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes that might happen, and if fraud does happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. That's a good deal. Find out why I trust Home Title Lock. Go to HometitleLock.com and use the promo code JTN. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code JTN.
Welcome back to Just the News, No Noise. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear an appeal brought by Judicial Watch on behalf of Congressman Mike Bost and two presidential electors challenging an Illinois law that permits mail-in ballots to be counted up to 14 days after Election Day, provided that they are postmarked or certified by that day. But I don't know about you, I don't think that it takes a genius to realize why that might be an issue. So joining us now to discuss that and much more is the president of Judicial Watch and the author of the book Rights and Freedoms in Peril, Tom Fitton. Tom, great to have you back with us.
Hey, good to be with you, Amanda. Thank you, John.
Absolutely. So as we were just discussing, I remember watching this last year in California as the weeks dragged on and racists started flipping, lo and behold, to blue. Surprise, surprise. In Illinois, sounds like a similar scenario, but the Supreme Court will hear this. We're 3 years down the road, coming up from the lower court system or it making its way through there. Tell us about it.
So the big issue is whether federal law setting Election Day means anything.
Yep.
And counting ballots that arrive after Election Day shows that it doesn't. And obviously that's not what the law should be. The law sets an election day, not an election week, not an election month. In Illinois, they count ballots that arrive for up to 14 days after Election Day. California, it's 7 days after Election Day. We sued also in Mississippi where they count ballots that arrive for up to 5 days after Election Day. And the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in that case found for our client that you're right, counting ballots that arrive after Election Day is contrary to federal law. In Illinois, they didn't even want to get to the issue. They told us that our client, Mike Bost, the congressman, federal candidate, has no standing to challenge the illegal counting of ballots that arrive after Election Day. And so we kicked it up to the appellate court. The court split. We lost again, 2-1. But the Supreme Court just announced this week that they are going to analyze the issue. They're going to consider the case next term. And in the meantime, our case in California is proceeding for Darrell Issa, who's challenging that counting of ballots that arrive up to 7 days after Election Day. And we found in the course of our investigation there, and it's confirmed by state authorities, that the counting of ballots that arrived after Election Day resulted in 2 seats being flipped from Republican to Democrat. And I would argue the House should be investigating that separately. But in the end, we've got the Supreme Court taking on, which may be the most significant election law case in years, whether candidates can sue to protect election integrity in federal court.
Pretty amazing. Yeah. Pretty amazing that the Article 1 branch may not have standing, at least in the eyes of some of these states. It's quite remarkable. In these states where this goes on, do these ballots have to be postmarked, or have you found evidence that things are postmarked after Election Day and are still being counted?
Well, a postmark, in my view, isn't sufficient.
Yep.
In Illinois, as I recall, they didn't necessarily have to be postmarked. And, President Trump agrees with us on this. He issued an executive order, statement of policy that says that wants to protect Election Day. And he compared it quite aptly to someone showing up 3 days after Election Day, going to the polling place and saying, I want to vote. You got to make sure if you're mailing your ballots that it's going to get there in time. And the best way to ensure your vote is counted in the end, obviously, is to show up and vote in person. Right. But if you're going to use the mails, we can't have the votes just come in forever and a day. If there's no limit, right? If the federal law doesn't mean anything, why only 2 weeks?
Sure.
Why not keep the elections open well into the next year?
Yeah.
What's the limit? And there's got to be a limit, and it's set by the federal law, which is Election Day. And there are exceptions under federal law, but it's not a broad exception. So you got to get your ballots in by Election Day in order for them to be lawfully counted. That's our position, and the Supreme Court's going to be handling a related issue in terms of, in the least, whether a federal candidate, a member of Congress, can sue to vindicate his rights in that regard.
Yeah.
Well, per the Constitution, I'm pretty sure the Founding Fathers felt the same way about an election day. We have had, prior to COVID, extended voting periods, though, because we had early voting. Was COVID the impetus for dragging out the voting after Election Day, or were there other states that were doing this before COVID?
It really accelerated, I think, after Bush-Gore, the post-Election Day counting of ballots, or ballots that arrive after Election Day. Only 19 states do it. They do it here in the District of Columbia as well. It's not widely adopted, but it's adopted in too many states, ranging in places like, the Republican-controlled Mississippi, where we sued, to places like California and Illinois. Look, I think the American people want an Election Day to mean something. They want you to get your ballots in by Election Day, preferably to vote in person. I know many people use mail-in ballots. It's really an anomaly in terms of Western elections. Voting in person is the way to go. It's the best way to ensure that elections are conducted fairly, and it ensures voter confidence, because they know once you drop a ballot in the mail, sketchy things can happen.
Mm-hmm. We saw that.
Yeah, really amazing. Tom, given the course that this is on, it could be the Supreme Court will decide before this session, or maybe not, later this year, whether they're standing. Then the whole standing issue has to go back to be litigated on the merits. Can this be resolved before the 2026 midterm elections, where Congress is up for grabs?
Maybe. I mean, the court took up the request for the issue of standing, but they could expand it. It's the Supreme Court. They do what they want and get to the merits. We already have this victory in the Fifth Circuit, establishing that our legal position is correct, that counting ballots received after Election Day is unlawful. And if there's a dispute among the circuits, that might show up in the Supreme Court next year as well, or next term as well. So it's hard to know what will happen next. But I do think legally, counting ballots after Election Day is eventually going to go away, thanks to Judicial Watch and the litigation we've been bringing in historic ways.
Yeah. Tom, before we let you go, I want to ask you about these documents that you received from West Point. There were speakers last year, back, I believe, in March, and there were some words omitted. Tell us about this.
So the mission of West Point is, now I'm going on memory here, I hope I get it right, duty, honor, and country. And they took it out of the mission statement of West Point last year, and a lot of alumni were upset. There was public outrage out of it, from it, and so we have the documents where they're trying to contain the damage. And it's pretty clear it was part of a DEI initiative. It was part of the Biden administration's efforts to transform the military. They attacked the alumni as complaining all the time about their efforts to transform the military. So I'm hoping Pete Hegseth and the Defense Department go into West Point and fix it and restore that to the mission statement, because as far as I'm concerned, these documents show they were interested in distracting and misleading as part of a DEI effort to take out those core values from the mission statement of the West Point, even though it's the motto of the academy.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I mean, that definitely sounds like something that Secretary Hegseth would want to get rid of.
Tom
in
said
a
something.
Hurry.
If this sits thanks to Judicial Watch, I could say that 1,000 times. Thanks to Judicial Watch, all the
I
things
know.
you guys have done over the years to get us transparency, Tom. It's an
Yeah.
amazing fight that you wage every day.
Indeed.
Well, we're happy to do it, and there's, as you know, John and Amanda, there's just a few of us in town interested in doing it. And
Yeah.
I mean, you do it on the reporting and the journalism end, but my gosh, our government's so darn big. There's so much to be investigated and uncovered. And frankly, cutting government is the best way to help us in that regard, because the smaller the government, the harder it is to keep secrets.
That's right. That
That's
is
true.
right. And it's hard to
That's
keep
a great
secrets
point.
with guys like Tom Fitton and John Solomon in town.
Yeah,
I'll tell you
Tom
that.
Fitton
Everybody, the
particularly.
book
I know
again
John
is
Solomon.
Rights and Freedoms in Peril. Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton, always an honor to have you here with us tonight, sir. All right, everybody, after the break, more on school reform in America. Federal school choice may be a reality soon. How exciting is that? We're going to explain it with Erica Donalds next.
Hey, America, the dollar reset that currency experts have been warning about for years just shifted into high gear, and the evidence is unmistakable. Central banks are hoarding gold at the fastest pace since records began. This isn't typical market noise. Why? When nations reach unsustainable debt levels and face chronic trade deficits, major currency devaluations usually follow. Gold isn't becoming expensive, even though it's at all-time highs. Why? It's the dollar that's losing value at an alarming rate. Meanwhile, central banks have bought over 1,000 tons of gold annually for 3 straight years because they see what's coming. This goes beyond inflation. It could mark the early stages of a full-blown dollar collapse. And if that happens, Americans could divide into 2 groups, those who prepared and those who wish they had. That's why American Alternative Assets created a free dollar reset survival guide to show Americans like you how to protect your retirement savings from currency collapse. Inside, you'll discover proven wealth strategies and potentially receive up to $10,000 in free silver just to jumpstart your position. So do me a favor, call 855-GOLD-340 or visit johnlikesgold.com right now. That's 855-465-3340 or simply go to johnlikesgold.com. Position yourself with the smart money before the reset arrives. Welcome back, America. In many corners of this great country now, people are calling school choice the great equalizer, the great fixer. Creating competition almost always has created success in America. Our next guest knows a thing or two about the effort to push school choice into greater and bigger opportunities. She's the chair of the America First Policy Institute Center for Education Opportunity. She's also the founder of Optima Ed, Erica Donalds. Erica, great to have you back on the show.
Always good to be with you.
All right, the big beautiful bill has so many things in it, sometimes we forget, but federal school choice is one of them. Tell us how this could be an epic moment in education.
Yeah, a bill called Education Choice for Children Act, ECCA, which has been around for about 10 years, is finally here and included in the big beautiful bill, the House version. We expect it will also be in the Senate version coming back. Creates a federal tax credit that can be used anywhere in the United States. Yes, California, New York, places where we would not otherwise have private school choice. It gives a tax credit to those who want to donate to scholarship funding organizations, and parents will be able to use those scholarships at private schools in any state in the country. This is absolutely huge for education freedom.
It sure is.
Well, and Erica, also for parents who want to do homeschooling themselves or they want to do a homeschooling co-op, this provide. I mean, you think of the amount of textbooks and things, educational materials that you could purchase with these funds. It's a lot.
It is, and many scholarship funding organizations allow for those expenses for online courses, homeschool curricula, tutoring services, maybe even extracurricular activities. Another part of this bill, though, is 529 reform, which is expanding the ability of families to use 529 funds on homeschool expenses like the ones that you just listed off. So not only will this tax credit benefit homeschool families for the use of those funds, but they will also expand the 529 eligible expenses to allow for homeschool, which, as you know, is the fastest growing manner of education in our country.
It's so amazing. And
Yeah.
it never stopped. I think people thought, well, it'll stop, it'll slow down after COVID, but it actually accelerated after COVID, right?
It did. And the most recent data says that while 7% of families in this country are homeschooling, another 7% say that they would homeschool if they felt like they were able to. Maybe they can't because of their jobs or financially, whatever the case may be. So not only do parents see it as an option and they're exercising that option, they want it to be an option for them. It's really becoming much more mainstream along the lines of charter schools and private schools.
Pretty cool.
Erica, I have consistently heard that homeschooled kids have better standardized test scores. They are better prepared for college. But there is, I guess there's a risk you take when you send your kids to college, because these days they have become inculcation or indoctrination camps for kids. How does that play into all of this?
You know, it is a huge concern for families, and we're seeing college going rates go down. They've continued to go down since the pandemic, especially in the Ivy Leagues, which have been in the headlines a lot lately for all of the radical ideology that's on display on those campuses. We also saw President Trump tweet out just last week or so to defund Harvard and to fund trade schools. We're seeing the rise of the skilled trades, especially with the rise of AI and robotics, where more students, especially in high school, are interested in going directly into skilled trades where they're not going to take on a bunch of debt. And parents are supportive of that because they don't want their children indoctrinated into these radical ideologies.
Yeah, huge. All right, everybody looks at Florida and says, well, it's a solidly red state. There can't possibly be a controversy about who would be running the University of Florida, but we would be wrong about that, wouldn't we?
Well, yes, actually, just fresh off the presses right
just an hour ago.
today,
Yeah.
Santa Ono, who was the sole finalist, voted unanimously by the Board of Trustees at University of Florida, actually had to have a final step of approval from the Board of Governors of the state and lost that vote just this afternoon. He had a history of supporting DEI, radical gender ideology, initiatives at both the University of Michigan and his past jobs. He said that he was reformed, but this, of course, is the state of Florida. We're not taking chances on someone who doesn't truly believe in conservatism and what we need to do to take our flagship university to the next level. The Board of Trustees is going to have to go back to the drawing board and find the right person to lead University of Florida.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Erica, before we let you go, Ron DeSantis has been great for the state of Florida, but a new person will come forward. Is he going to live in your house?
Well, I sure hope so. My husband, Byron Donalds, of course, has been endorsed by President Trump to be the next governor of Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis, who we all agree has done an incredible job as our governor, is termed out. So he cannot run again. We're not trying to run against Ron DeSantis, but certainly President Trump has the confidence in my husband, Byron, as well as I do. You know, we've been married for 22 years, have a wonderful family, and we built an incredible life and achieved the American dream here in Florida. And we want that for every single Floridian family.
Yeah, and both of you have served your country in so many different ways, particularly all the great work you're doing on education. It's a great honor to have you on today, Erica Donald. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, and the honor is mine. Have a great evening.
We'll be touching base soon. So much exciting stuff ahead. All right, we'll talk about one of the fastest rising crimes in America next, and how you can protect yourself if you're at home. You're going to want to watch this. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody, to Just the News, No Noise. As you all know from his campaign trail and his campaign promises, the Trump administration has been focused on bringing down crime in America. And so far, so good, but there's still one crime that has been on the rise for years in America, and that's because it's so easy to do, and it involves most people's most valuable asset, their home. and the FBI calls it house stealing. So how does it work, and what can you do to protect yourself? Joining us now is a man who used to commit this crime, but now he works on the side of the good guys, thankfully helping to stop it. He is reformed title fraud thief Matthew Cox. Matthew, I feel terrible calling you a thief because you are reformed and you are helping so many people.
That's all right. It's, it is what it is. So
Yeah. All right. So this is a law and order presidency, a law and order president. But is this something that seems like law enforcement agencies are taking the reins on, or is it still just percolating like crazy?
I think it's definitely it's on the rise, and I would say law enforcement is taking it more and more serious because it is on the rise, and I just don't think that they can ignore it anymore, and I don't think the media can ignore it anymore. It's every day there seems like there's a new case, and the media is covering it finally.
Yeah, that is a big change. I think it's become big enough, and you've got county recorders and clerks saying, I met a county recorder since the last time you and I talked, and she's like, you're right. You guys are so right. I have no power. If someone submits a change of a title, I have no power to challenge it. That's one of the real weaknesses here that the bad guys take advantage of, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's public records. They don't have the authority to call to determine if a signature is correct or a notary is correct. That they simply, if you've checked all the boxes, they have to record the document, and that gives the criminal all the power.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
Matthew, I think a lot of people they consider themselves to be responsible homeowners. They probably have some type of theft detection on their credit cards. But this is unique because this is something where you really have to stay on top of it. Talk to us about the services of Home Title Lock and how it actually works to protect consumers.
Well, I think what separates Home Title Lock from most other title companies or protection companies is that they monitor your title, they notify you, and then what really separates them is that they will work as an advocate to correct any type of fraud that's occurred on your title. They'll hire an attorney. They'll fight up to $1 million. They'll spend up to $1 million to correct any type of fraud and really correct the issues. And that's the problem. And that's the difference, is that if most people think, oh, well, if I'm notified, I'll call the police, I'll report it. And if the police actually look into it, they'll correct it. But that's not what's going to happen. If someone breaks in your house and they break the window to your house and steal your TV and your electrical equipment, well, the police aren't going to repair that. They're not going to fix the door. They're not going to fix the window. They're not going to give you your TV back. And that's what's great about Home Title Lock, is that they will take the reins and they will help you fix the issues that these criminals have caused you. And that's something nobody else does.
Yeah, it is a peace of mind that is so great. One of the amazing things here is the gap between when the crime occurs and when the homeowner most likely first learns about it. You spoke about this from how you were able to pull off the ones that you did. By the time you've gotten the title moved into your name and you've taken out the equity, you're long gone. It's months before the homeowner's even going to get a notification if they don't have Home Title Lock, right?
Absolutely. Most of the time it's a foreclosure notice, or in some of the cases that I was involved in, or that, the crime that I committed, the Secret Service or the FBI actually called or stopped by the homeowner's house to notify them of what had happened. And in one case, the homeowner thought it was a joke. They heard there was a voicemail, and it was the Secret Service saying, contact us, you've been the victim of home title theft, and they didn't even believe it was a real crime, and they thought the whole thing was just a joke until they actually got the agent on the phone. And it was months later. I was long gone.
Oh, frightening.
Yeah. Matthew, does this happen more online, or does it happen more when you go through the county clerk's office? And regardless of mode, how do you do it?
So when I was doing this, I would actually physically go down to public records, and I would search public records in person. I'd have to go through security. I'd have to be on camera. And I would have to do most of these things by going into a bank or going back to public records and filing the documents. Now you can sit in your local coffee shop, go online, search the records online, change the deeds online, file the deed or the title online, open bank accounts online, borrow money against the property online, or sell the property online. You don't have to go anywhere at this point, and you can even transfer the money. Some people transfer money out of the country. They'll transport it, or they'll wire it to China, and they'll have mules launder the money for you. I mean, there's just so much that you can do online now to hide your identity. It's amazing. I mean, it's horrible, but it's much easier of a crime to commit now than when I was doing it. And that's the problem, is most people think, oh, it's becoming more difficult. It's not becoming more difficult. It's becoming easier.
Yeah, really great point. I want to bust one of the big myths, 'cause I know some people say, well, I remember when I bought my house, I bought some title insurance on the day I closed, and I must be protected. That title insurance has no effect on these bad guys at all, right?
Right. Yeah. Wouldn't that be great if you were automatically covered? But no, it doesn't cover you. Title insurance, when you close on your house, covers for fraud and clear title up until the day you close. So they're just telling the homeowner, hey, your title up to this moment is clean. It's perfectly clear of any encumbrances. But the day after you close, I could go get 3 loans on your house or transfer your title and put your house online and sell it. And there's nothing you can do. The title insurance does not cover that. And that's a big problem, because people believe that it does.
Yeah, really important. All right, you have done such great work, as the whole team has at Home Title Lock. You've got a special promotion going. I want to make sure I got this right. Right now, if people use the promo code JTN, Matthew, they get a free title check. They get a history of what's in their title, and they get 14 days free of the $1 million triple lock protection. That's a pretty good deal, right?
Absolutely. It's definitely, it's worth signing up for, and then some.
Yeah.
And what is the $1 million triple lock protection?
Well, it's that Home Title Lock will spend up to $1 million to fight and to correct any type of fraud that's been committed on your title.
Amazing.
That's an amazing deal.
That is a deal.
All right, everybody, go use that promo code JTN at HomeTitleLock.com. Yep, that's where you can get all of those savings. Matthew Cox from Home Title Lock, thank you so much for being with us tonight. And again, everybody, use that promo code JTN at HomeTitleLock.com. You're going to get a free title history report and a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title at at HomeTitleLock.com. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back on the other side. Welcome back, everybody. All right, so President Trump is obviously backing the one big, beautiful bill, but his buddy Elon Musk, the former Doge head, tweeted this out. X'd it out. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is disgusting, abomination, shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. Elon, tell us how you really feel. Now, John, today at the White House, Caroline Leavitt was asked about this, and she gave a very diplomatic and correct answer, which was, the president knows that Elon had some issues with this bill, but I think and this is me talking now, I think at this point Elon's maybe feeling a little bit liberated. He's out from under the special government employee designation, and he is telling us how he really feels.
And listen, Elon Musk is a strategist all the time. This isn't a sudden eruption. He knew that the Senate was going to have its annual caucus meeting. It would be the first one to talk about the big, beautiful bill since the Memorial Day holiday. And he wanted to put a little vigor into them, of those 90-year-old senators and 80-year-old senators and 70-year-old senators to, hey, do some more cutting. Be a little more courageous in the House. Now, in fairness, the House cut at $1.8 trillion. That's one of the largest cuts in the history, except it barely reverses any of the crazy spending that's gone on since COVID. It's a drop in the bucket. So I think Elon did this. This was strategic. I wouldn't even be surprised if it was a little bit coordinated. Mm-hmm. The president has given the Senate some runway. Do what you got to do it, and then we'll get back together. We'll figure it out. I think Tommy Tuberville had it right. This bill is going to pass. It's going to cut more spending. I think it'll be agency elimination and program elimination in the next round. And then the cutting will continue after that. And there was something that happened today that reminds us why we keep escalating our deficit, and you know, part of it is Congress doesn't have courage. I've always said that.
Yes.
But you know, you got a federal judge today saying the Federal Bureau of Prisons can't stop giving hormone therapy at taxpayer expense to transgender inmates to keep the illusion of their gender change going. That's why. I mean, we're spending everything. I mean, the government pays for everything now. Transgender surgeries, it's crazy. Concierge service the last 5 years, Medicaid for illegal aliens who've already broke the law just by getting into the country. We are paying for everything right now, and at some point, that crazy ride has to end, and I think that's what Elon Musk is really talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about what this is at its original foundation, the medical necessity of it. This court is basically saying, no, you have to perform chemical castration. No, you, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, you have to do this. It's crazy. Anyway.
It's the world we live in today.
Indeed, indeed. Okay, so there was something else I wanted to say about that. Nah, who cares? All right, so the Trump administration has revealed that Secretary of State Marco Rubio is going to be the one leading negotiations with El Salvador to return deported migrants. You and I have talked about this the last few weeks. Secretary Rubio has consistently impressed me every step of the way. I mean, he is in lockstep with the president when it comes to the America First agenda, and when it comes to statecraft, the guy is so masterful.
Yeah, I don't think El Salvador wants to give the guy up, honestly. I think the problem may not be Americans' willingness to try to negotiate. If I'm El Salvador and I got a guy that I think is a bad guy, why am I going to give him up? I'm a sovereign nation. I don't care what a federal judge says. I got the football.
Yeah, it's not it. It's not their judge.
Yeah, so I think the challenge for Rubio is that he might not be able to get him back, not because Rubio isn't skilled and isn't a great diplomat. He's proven so, but if I'm El Salvador, I got the football, and this guy's a bad guy, and he's embarrassed me, right? His lawyers and all of his Democratic shenanigans have come down there and made a mockery of the El Salvadoran system. They've accused. I don't think I'm not giving this guy up easy. I'm thinking that's not what I'm thinking. The El Salvadoran president's thinking.
Well,
but
maybe
we'll
margaritas all around for the Democrats who went down there. That'll make them feel a little better.
They tried that once. It didn't seem to cure the problem, though.
Speaking of margaritas,
Oh,
Kamala
boy.
Harris.
Good transition there. That was awkward.
Former Vice President Kamala Harris decided to be a no-show at California's Democrat Party convention. Of course, a lot of people have speculated that she is going to run for president again, or even California governor, now that Gavin Newsom is going to be termed out. What do you think?
I think her popularity went up because she didn't go. I mean, when she speaks is when is her problem. Right? She gets less popular when she starts talking, and she goes on those meandering, circular discussions with herself. I think she's in the basement campaign room that Joe Biden used to fool us all in 2020. I just can't see her having. I know a lot of people say, well, she's at 38%. She's great. She might want to run for president again. I don't think she can win California right now. I don't. And
I don't think so either.
It's interesting. But yeah,
and there's a political reality, and it doesn't matter if you are a woman. It doesn't matter if you are a man. When you lose a race, it is very sticky. That loser label is very sticky, and it's very hard to
shed. It took Nixon 8 years to shake it until 68. Reagan had to shake it after 76. He did it really quickly, 4 years, which is unusual. I do think she's a politician where absence makes the heart grow fonder, because when you do see her, you become less fond of her. It's what you see. I mean, she only got 1% the last time she ran for president in 2020 against Joe Biden. 1%. I mean, that's like rounding error.
Yeah. All right, let's bring it back full circle to the big, beautiful bill, because President Trump ripped Rand Paul on Truth Social this morning for opposing the BBB. But it's not just Rand Paul. I mean, to be fair, Senator Ron Johnson has his reasons for not being a fan of it either.
Yeah, I think Donald Trump won't rip Ron Johnson. I think you'll see that. I mean, they work together. He understands Ron Johnson has a objection to this. And it's one of those things that can be worked out. Listen, it's all posturing right now. It's all negotiating tactics, and President Trump is good at that. The Billy Joel song, I go to extremes so I can come back to a good place. That's what he does. He gets out here, and then he brings people somewhere better than where they were. I think that's what's going on. I think these senators just have to sit and talk this through and figure out what they're going to do, and then also calculate what can they do that can also get back to the House, and then they'll find a happy place. I think 4th of July, they'll still hit their day. I'm with Tommy Tuberville. My early reporting suggested this will get worked out, but time will tell.
Yeah, we will have to see. And in the meantime, the U.S. Army is going to have its 250th birthday. That's next Saturday. It's going to be celebrated
June
here.
14th,
I'll
right?
be there. Yeah, June 14th. What did I say? Who knows?
No, you said Saturday. Yeah, June 14th, Flag Day, President Trump's birthday. keep an eye on liberal protests. I think that's going to be a
Oh
day of
boy, oh
massive
boy.
protests. I have a big story coming out in a couple days.
All right, speaking of Billy Joel, we're moving out. See you tomorrow.